There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with another tipsy tag. This time it's one from Steve Donahue. I'm not blaming the tipsiness on him. The tipsiness is my responsibility. But Steve, about 10 days ago, came up with a great original tag. It's called the Vacation Book Tag. But I am so bad at this topic. This topic is so alien to my constitutional makeup and ideological allegiances that I had to get somewhat tipsy to do it. I will put a link to Steve's original tag in the show notes below, and yes, I have some issues with vacations. So why don't we start with that? I've never really taken vacations in my adult life. Or if I have, I haven't enjoyed them. For example, the only kind of conventional vacation I took was about 6 or 7 years ago. My parents invited me. Basically, let's put it accurately, they flew me from Tokyo to Maui to meet them for a week, and I was happy to see my parents, but I hated Hawaii. It's just a horrible place. I mean, if you got rid of all the white people, maybe it would be okay, but oh my god, all that vacation, beach, American bullshit, it's horrible. Give it back to the Hawaiians, for God's sakes. I was on the island of Maui for a week. There wasn't one, excuse my French, there wasn't one fucking bookstore on the island. I don't think Mom and Dad are going to watch this video because I don't think they probably would seek out the vacation book tag video, but if so, Mom and Dad, thank you for a great experience, but yeah, Hawaii sucks. So otherwise, in my adult life, my idea of a vacation is going somewhere because they're having a special event like a literary festival or some kind of conference related to some particular enthusiasm of mine. But to go somewhere to go sightseeing, that's just sick. Or to like relax. I mean, for me, relaxing is what I do at home. If I was rich, and then I'd be an asshole. But if I sound like Bernie Sanders, I'm trying to go for the Elizabeth Warren imitation, not the Bernie Sanders, but I think vacations are ideologically suspect. Okay, so here's a good place to stop and say, about a year ago I did some famous booktubers tag. They are now persona non grata. Enough about them. Before they were persona non grata, I did several of their tags, and one of them was particularly just so white and male that I just had a ball with it. And I said at the beginning of that tag, oh, I'm going to be rather irreverent in this tag, but I'm not criticizing the tag originators. It was a lie! This time, I want to say to Steve, vacations just is like, it would be like me doing the heterosexuality tag. It's like, I don't know anything about it. So, my irreverence is not a reflection on my undying love for you. This time I mean it. Or do I? Tag number 1. What's your favorite book about somebody taking a vacation? So yeah, I don't read that kind of stuff. I can think of 2 books that you couldn't pay me to read. One won the National Book Award, and it was a gay novel. I don't know what it was called. I'll put the cover image up. And it was about a sad gay novelist who traveled around the world so that he didn't have to attend his ex-lover's wedding. And that sounded just awful. So I never wanted to read that. And what's the other one? Olga Tokarczuk. She has a book called Flights, and everybody says, oh, it's a novel about travel. What the hell? It's a novel about mouse traps. Like, what kind of a theme is that for a book? So yeah, no, this is not a topic that lends itself to serious literary fiction in my world, but I do have one that I loved, and it was about a mother and daughter traveling, and where did they go? The Spanish coast. And that is Hot Milk by Deborah Levy. And I absolutely love this. It's the first book I read by Deborah Levy, and it's the only book of hers that I haven't hated or bailed on. But this was a marvelous book. 2016, I believe. Shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize. Sophia and her mother Rose are on vacation, but also seeking treatment for Rose's strange malady. And it was just fantastic. This is the only book I think I've read in my adult life that was somewhat centrally about vacationing. So that's what I got. Number 2, do you read travel writing? And if so, favorites? I don't. I've read maybe 3 travel writing articles in newspapers or magazines in my adult life, like literally less than 10. And I've enjoyed them, but because I'm not all that interested in travel, that's about the extent of my travel writing reading. But I acquired, here's a book that I would like to read someday, and it is by one of my subscribers. If I can pronounce his name, he is Irish. It's Eamon Sheehy, and it is Summers in the City State, and I hope I can pronounce all the words in the subtitle. Ceuta to Tangier through Fortress Europe. A short little book published in 2016, and it is about Eamon's trip from Morocco to the little-known Spanish enclave of Ceuta, on through Fortress Europe and into the Rif cities of northern Morocco. I don't know what Rif means, but I'm sure once I read this book, I will find out. It's the only book of travel writing, non-fiction travel writing, that I have in my library, I think. Number 3, what are your books on vacation rituals? So the first thing to say is that the only vacations I've taken in the last decade have been going home from Japan, from Tokyo, back to visit my parents in Canada. Vacations are just not something that I do, but I do go back to visit my parents in Saskatchewan, Canada, usually twice a year, sometimes occasionally only once a year. Before I got on BookTube, my vacation ritual was that I would pack 3, 4, 5, 6 books and go visit my parents and not read one of them. Since I've gotten onto BookTube in the last 2 years, maybe, I'm usually doing buddy reads, so I do actually do at least the buddy reading. Otherwise, all my pre-BookTube life, it was like, fill my suitcase with books that I don't open while on vacation. Number 4, what's your favorite book you found or read first while on vacation? I like this question, and I do have a answer right away. Everybody, presumably all of you know I live in Tokyo. I have lived in Tokyo for 10 years, just over 10 years. And I visited Tokyo twice before I moved here, and the first time was perhaps 2007, something like that. And I fell in love with Japan. I was already in love with Japanese men before I visited. That's what got me here. And then I fell in love with pretty much everything else about the country. On the way home, flying out of the Osaka airport, flying home to Vancouver, which is where I lived at that time, I went to the bookstore in the Osaka airport and I picked up a copy of A History of Japan Post-World War II. The author is John Dower, and the title is Embracing Defeat, Japan in the Wake of World War II. It was pocketbook sized, and I don't like to read those, but I didn't care. I devoured that book. I read half of it on the 9-hour flight to Vancouver and read the rest over the next few days. And it's one of my favorite works of popular history. I absolutely loved it. It taught me so much about Japan, and now that I have been living here for a decade, I would love to reread it and read more of Dower's very accessible popular history type scholarship. And I know Steve loved that book, so it may have been 5% of my motivation for citing that book for this prompt was to get some brownie points. Did it work? Prompt number 5. Have you ever light-fingered a book from a vacation stay? I don't think so. Number 6 is where I'm going to get a little bit ranty, and again, no disrespect to Steve for the great question, but 6 is some of your favorite books set in exotic locales. And I have to say that the idea of an exotic locale kind of pisses me off. Like, what is that? Like, I had to Google it, and I came up with Hawaii, bleh, and a whole bunch of places where tourists have totally destroyed the country, like Mexico. I have read 1 or 2 books set in Mexico, but it had nothing to do with anything exotic about the country. It had to do with the real people that lived there. I suppose there's some genre fiction that might be set in an exotic locale, but you know how I feel about genre fiction. Yeah, so this question bugs me. I have nothing. I have absolutely nothing. Or maybe it's a typo, an erotic locale. I might have more to say about that. Moving on! Number 7, do you think the coronavirus will kill us all? Well, Japan is one of the countries that has, outside of China, one of the highest numbers of people that have been infected with it. It's a big issue every day, more and more, and I'm personally not worried, but it is a concern. And my students are telling me about this pop concert's been canceled, and the only good thing that might come out of coronavirus is that the Tokyo Olympics are canceled. I don't want anybody to get sick, but I just want the panic to spread and so that the Tokyo Olympics are canceled, because the Olympics is one of the most criminal enterprises on the planet right now, second only to the Republican Party. But yeah, it's a little scary. I'm not personally worried because, I saw a headline today that alcohol kills the virus, so I'm going with that. The penultimate prompt is, what was the last book you read while on vacation? And so I actually had to go back to my videos from when I was last in Canada, and that was August 2019, and it looks like from just a cursory review of those videos that the book that I did actually finish reading while in Canada was a book that I found out about from Amy on her channel, From the Dusty Bookshelf. She read a memoir by J.M. Barrie, the Peter Pan author, about his mother. And the title of that memoir is his mother's name, Margaret Ogilvy. And I didn't start it while I was on my holiday, but I did finish it when I was in Canada, and I loved it. I want to go back and reread it because I think there's a lot to say about it. I got a lot out of it. I was really entertained by it, but it was actually so good. I felt very strongly that it would repay a second reading. And number 9 is to tag people. So here's a list. I have generated this list by just going back over the last 10 or so people who left comments on my channel, who have channels themselves. And so I've come up with Cousin of Always Doing, Sarah of Hardcover Hearts, Heidi of My Reading Life, the guys of Codex Cantina, Hannah's Books, Christy of Dostoevsky in Space, and I'm going to put the link to her channel because she did one of my alphabet soup book tags recently, and she is a scream. I fell in love with her in the first 5 minutes of her video, so check out the show notes. I will put a link to her channel. She's fabulous, and she needs exponentially more subscribers than she's got. Ros of Scallydandling about the books. I tagged her on the sex and literature tag, and she was a little bit intimidated by that. So Ros, I am releasing you from that commitment. Of course, there's no commitment to do a tag because you're tagged on it, but do this one instead. I would love to hear your answers. Liz Schubert and Rachel Mauro, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't think you ever pronounce your surname on your channel, but Rachel Mauro. There you go, people. That's the vacation book tag. Thanks, Steve, for creating this tag and tagging me. And if I didn't offend you here, I will try harder next time. Thanks for watching.